Good afternoon, and welcome to the Board of Health meeting of March 21st, 2022. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Pursuant to Governor Baker's June 16, 2021 signing of an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, including the extension of his March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until April 1, 2022, this meeting of the Chatham Board of Health is being conducted via remote participation and in person. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting online while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410. Conference ID number is 294-392-027#, or they can join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Channel 18, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. Now I'd like to turn the meeting over to Chairman Beckley.
Thank you, Judy. First, I'd like to note that we have a full quorum here of board members tonight. Dr. Noble Hanson, Ron Broman, Ed Sheehan, Carol Boyce, and myself. In addition, we have two alternate board members, Dr. Richard Edwards and Carol Gordon. It shall be the policy of this board to conduct its meetings under the open meetings law so as to encourage public participation whenever time permits and as part of agenda item discussions. Let's start tonight's meeting with agenda item 1, which is a continuance of a show cause hearing for an expired operation and maintenance contract for John and Shadria Riley at 41 Swift Lane.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. This is Bill Riley.
Okay.
John is my son.
Go ahead. You have the floor, Bill.
Thank you. So I spoke with John today. This, it's his responsibility. He's trying to do it on his own, and he's called several people on the list. He's having difficulty getting a call back. I told him that I would work with him this week to help him get a contractor signed up. And so I asked for your relief for until your next meeting. I'm confident we'll have a maintenance contract by your next meeting.
All right. Thank you for that offer or that recommendation. Board of Health members, are we comfortable giving the applicant, well, not the applicant, but the person who is delinquent with their current OEM contract another 2 weeks? 2 weeks. Yeah, until the next board meeting. We okay with that, members?
I have one question.
Push your button. Okay.
Does it take that long to get on, Judy? I mean,
Well, I don't know. He's trying to get a contract with an operation and maintenance entity, so I can't speak for, how difficult that is. But there are, I'm sure, issues they have to sign and agree to different terms and all that, so.
okay,
Everybody's pretty busy, so maybe it has been more difficult than we thought.
thank you.
How long have they had to get this? How long have they known?
We've sent numerous letters out over the last probably 6 months or so. I'd have to go back through the record. So they have known about it. And at the last meeting, he did say he had been in discussions with somebody and expected a contract soon, so. But I don't think it's unreasonable to give them another 2 weeks. We really, for us to take any enforcement action would take longer than that anyway, so I think it's reasonable to extend this for another 2 weeks.
Yeah, Mr. Noble, I agree. It's been going on for a while, but to give them 2 more weeks, but then be pretty firm, I think that's reasonable.
Yes.
Okay. I think that would be our expectation, is that we would have in hand what we're looking for within the next 2 weeks. Can I get a motion to approve that decision?
A motion to approve an extension for 2 more weeks till our next meeting.
Okay. Have a second? Any discussion? Any discussion from the public before we vote? Okay, when I call your name, please indicate. Actually, we can vote by voice now, can't we? Because we are in person. All in favor of the motion as read, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. All right,
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
okay, you're welcome. Item 2, this is a variance hearing and approval of IA Technology for Acton Homes at 356 Stony Hill Road. Clark Engineering is representing the applicant. David Clark, are you on the call?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, you have the floor.
Thank you. For the record, David Clark, Clark Engineering, on behalf of the Actons. So they purchased this property on Stony Hill Road, and they're in the process of permitting the demolition of the existing 3-bedroom house and building a new 4-bedroom house. Because we're adding a bedroom, the regulation requires us to have IA technology for the removal of nitrogen, so we show a singular system being installed in the front yard, and where the new leach field will also be. There are no other site constraints. We meet all the setback requirements from the building and property lines. I know there was discussion about the room in the garage, and I believe the applicant has submitted revised floor plans for that area on the second floor of the garage. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Board of Health member questions, comments? I see.
So the exercise room on the second floor has a 5-foot cased
You have
opening.
your tongue on?
Yeah.
Okay.
So by some definitions, I guess that would be a big enough opening to prevent it from having adequate privacy to be a bedroom. But in the past, we've requested larger cased opening than that in this situation. And it certainly could be bigger. Over the garage, that's, if there's a door at the bottom of those stairs, then that's a private area, and it meets all the definitions of a bedroom. And it can certainly be used as a bedroom. So what we come down to once again is, how do we define bedrooms? And does this house have 4 bedroom or 3 bedrooms or 5 bedrooms? There's a full bath on that second floor with a shower.
Yeah.
Right next to the so-called exercise room. And last time, we had a similar situation, and we asked them to remove the whole wall or make the opening even bigger than 5 feet.
The room over the garage, I had some discussions with the builder. I did tell him that the board wasn't loving these rooms with full baths in them. But because he changed it, so he took the wall out at the bottom of the stairs, so it enters right into the garage, which means that it can't legally be used. It's not a legal bedroom by the building code. I think this will still have to go through the building approval process.
Okay,
The
so.
fire protection and all of that, but that room can't be counted as a bedroom the way it's set up in these floor plans. And then the room over, the study off the family room, I mean, we certainly could ask them to open that up to a 6-foot cased opening. These are things that we're going to have a discussion later on about how far we want, how large we want these, and whether they can have doors on them or not, and all of that, so.
'Cause, with a 5-foot cased opening, it would be very easy to put a double door in there, French doors or whatever, and it would be a private area.
Yeah.
So it comes down to how we define
Right.
what's private.
I mean, you can ask them for a 6-foot cased opening on this plan, and that, I think that would be reasonable. Again, as far as the room over the garage,
Yeah.
it,
It's hard to understand why you need to have a bath with a shower in the basement, unless that is going to be a sleeping area down there.
in the basement,
Yeah. The bath has a shower.
yep. But those aren't considered bedrooms because they're below grade and don't have egress windows.
So that the 2 windows in the exercise room are not big enough for egress?
In the exercise room downstairs?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't believe, I believe, David, you might be able to answer this. I think they're just small basement windows.
Let me take a look.
Okay, so I was confused. I was thinking this was on the 2nd floor. So that's the basement, yep.
Where's bedroom number 1? Bedroom number... Bedroom number...
It's on the first floor, on the back of the one that has the basement is the first floor. And that has bedroom number 1.
Okay.
And it also has a den with a 5-foot cased opening. That again, the same issue comes
Yep.
up. So theoretically, this could be considered a 5-bedroom or a 6-bedroom house.
6 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms.
David Clark, so the exercise room, the details show just typical basement windows. So those are not egress windows. There are egress windows for the large family room. There's a window well on the south side of the building. So that's on the basement level.
Right. So the only one that's in question then is the den home office on the first floor.
This is Noble. I have a question about the garage. I just got the revised garage plan. So now the staircase has been changed so that you come down from the room over the garage and the stairs leads to what?
The garage,
Lead to the garage.
right.
I had a question that came up before, and where did the garage rules come for, if a bedroom enters a garage or doesn't, or
That's a
opens?
building code.
Because it's not in
The room that enters directly into a garage can't be used for sleeping purposes, so we would not consider it a bedroom. Building code doesn't really have a definition of a bedroom, it's just whether it can be used for sleeping or habitable space.
So the change here, I'm confused, but the stairs, if you come down the stairs in the game room, does it go outside or does it go into the garage?
There's a door.
Oh, I see, it goes into the garage.
It goes into the garage, but then
Okay.
there's a door to the outside. So
Right.
there's a half wall at the bottom of the stairs that's open into the garage.
Yeah,
And a half wall
the
up here.
garage-
And a half wall at the top of the stairs. I think this is for a pool game room.
But I would say the garage entrance rules, I've been confused about them before, because anytime you have a room and you have a door into the garage, all of a sudden it's not a bedroom.
Right.
Because we've had one behind, a room over a detached garage. I mean, it's part of perhaps what we're in the midst of addressing, overhauling the whole rules, because it's not clear to me what the rules are, applying to over the garage. And then there's the cased opening that Dick has talked about in the other room. So there's a couple issues. So I guess one question that would come up, I don't know how soon we'll have these new regulations straightened out, but would we continue this for a little bit to get this straightened out? Is that appropriate or not?
I mean,
I guess, the question about garage is the only entrance into the bedroom through the garage. The only way you can get into the bedroom is through the garage. That removes it from being a bedroom. But in this case, you can
So it
enter
says-
from the garage or from outside.
Says who, though? It's
Well,
not-
she's
it's not
saying
in
that's what the
bedroom
building
definitions
code
from
says. She says the
Title
building
V of the
code.
state, but.
You know,
and I
if you use
think-
the Orleans definition of a bedroom, you count all the rooms, there's 12 rooms, it has 6 bedrooms.
Right. But it means, so to have a bedroom over a garage count as a bedroom, you would have to have an exterior stair coming down with its
Right.
own separate entrance is the only way. But I don't see that in the Title V rules or the Chatham rules about bedrooms. It's other rules that we have never even looked at before, that I know of.
these are things, when I review things in the office,
Yeah.
that I take it when people come in for a building permit. If this came to me, I would approve it because it enters directly into the garage
Approve it as a non-bedroom.
as a non-bedroom.
Right.
And then I make a note of that right on the building permit application. This is not approved as a bedroom.
And then the exercise room in the basement, by definition, cannot be considered a bedroom because of the window, the small windows.
Right.
Okay.
What about the den and the office on the first floor?
It's again, it's a 5-foot cased opening. We have not a strict rule on that. I usually say 5 to 6 foot cased openings when I'm reviewing these, so I think, it's up to the board, but I would, it doesn't really have the privacy if it's a cased opening like that.
Which floor is this one on now?
This is the first floor,
The office. Okay.
the office den on the first floor.
Well, we have accepted 5-foot wide openings in the past, correct?
No, but yeah.
One thing in favor of this is that this one does not have its own bathroom, like many of them do. You'd
Right.
have to go into the master bedroom and use that master bath. There's no other full bath on the first floor. There's just a powder room.
Right.
So that would sway me a little bit towards allowing this.
And then you have to remember that this will be deed restricted to 4 bedrooms. So legally, it will, if you pass it, it will be a legal 4-bedroom dwelling.
A total of 12 rooms.
Any further comments or questions?
Yeah, I have a question on the applicant's proposal there. It says the pool house has a room that could be considered a bedroom. Is that something we should also address?
Well, that's what we're talking about, the room over the garage, yes. That's the pool house,
Over the garage is the pool house?
yes.
Okay. Any further comments or questions or suggestions for board members? Otherwise, I'm sensing that we may want to proceed and accept this as a 4-bedroom house as proposed in the application. Can I get a motion to approve the application as submitted?
To approve.
Thank you, Ed. Can I get a second?
This is Noble. I'll second it with the caveat saying that today we're going by the rules we've used in the past, which aren't well-defined. So we're kind of in limbo here, and we're making plans to change them in the future. So I would second this today because we don't have the new rules in place, but there'll be, you know, it would be a different circumstance later on.
Okay,
I'll just say that.
as a comment, as a side comment.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Anybody from the public want to comment on this before we vote? If not, let me call the question. All in favor of,
Do you want me to read the conditions?
oh, yes. Thank you, Judy.
Nobody on the phone, no. I can just read the standard conditions. The applicant should restrict the property to a maximum of 4 bedrooms, correct? And record this restriction on the deed at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. The applicant shall submit a copy of the executed deed restriction. The applicant shall sign a covenant with the board agreeing to comply at such time as the town of Chatham, through its Board of Health and/or Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners, directs the connection of this property to the municipal sewer when it becomes available. This covenant and deed restriction shall be recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds and a copy submitted to the Board of Health. Throughout its life, the system shall be under an operation and maintenance agreement. The O&M shall be for at least 1 year and may be with any Mass certified operator of the appropriate grade that has received training by the company on the operation of the system. Effluent from the system shall be monitored at least twice per year for the first 2 years, preferably in May and October. The effluent shall be field tested in accordance with Mass DEP standard conditions for secondary treatment units certified for general use, revised March 20th, 2015. In addition, a lab test of effluent for total nitrogen to meet the performance standards of 19 milligrams per liter shall be collected and analyzed by a certified lab. Water meter readings are to be provided with the semi-annual report. If any of the field tests or lab tests fail, follow-up tests shall be conducted by a lab and an evaluation made by the operator within 30 days. After the required 2 years testing, application can be made to the board or its agent for review and possible modifications of the monitoring requirements. The applicant agrees to apply a minimum of 6 inches of compacted topsoil to all disturbed areas of the property. The engineer shall submit an engineered as-built plan, including as-built elevations with a written certification that the system has been installed in accordance with the approved plan. And no alteration of the floor plan of the dwelling or the engineered site plans are allowed without further review by the board or its agent. The variance is granted pursuant to State Environmental Code, Title V, and the Town of Chatham Subsurface Sewage Regulations, and is valid from 1 year from the date of the Board of Health approval. A permit must be issued and work commenced during that 1-year period, or the variance shall expire.
Thank you, Judy. Okay, we're ready to vote on this. All in favor of the motion as made and seconded, say aye. Aye.
Aye. Ask for nays. Ask for nays. Are you going to ask for nays?
Ask for nays.
Nays. Who's against it?
Oh, anybody against it? Any board members? Thank you. I didn't ask for nays. So is the motion carried by unanimous? I'm getting nods. Okay. So it's carries unanimously. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Item 3 on the agenda is a variance hearing and approval of IA technology for Chris Dittrich at 146 Strong Island Road. J.M. O'Reilly and Associates representing the applicant. Is John O'Reilly on?
I'm right here, sir.
Here you are. You're certainly here. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Green light means I'm live. The microphone, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. For the record, my name is John O'Reilly. It's good to be with you in person. Don't do that too often these days. We're here today to seek approval to install a IA technology for the reconstruction of what currently is a 2-bedroom home, and we're reconstructing it to a 3-bedroom home. Currently, the 2-bedroom home is serviced by a 1,000-gallon septic tank and a leach field that is approximately 1.5 to 2 feet above estimated high water for the site. We are proposing to install a innovative technology, a fast treatment unit with a distribution box and leach field. We've positioned the leach field in accordance to the requirements of your local code as far as the bottom of the facility, bottom of the leaching facility is sited at elevation 9, while the top of the facility is elevation above 12 to account for the 11-foot contour or the 11-foot floodplain. We did originally file a plan where we were requesting 3 variances. There was the setback to a foundation for a leaching facility, a setback to a septic tank to the foundation, and as well as the setback to the vegetated wetland behind the property. In talking with Judy and reviewing her memo she sent out to my office and the board, we've made some adjustments to the system in that we've removed 2 of the variances, 2 of the Title V setback variances. We are now providing 10.6 feet to the septic tank from the foundation, where the requirement is 10. And we are adjusting the slab in the basement of the foundation to provide a 23.8-foot setback where 20 is required. We are in the floodplain. The basement is uninhabitable. It's built for flood storage and according to the requirements. And I did give you floor plans as required, I guess, and at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Board member questions or comments?
Well, I'll start off. The question is why the office on the second floor isn't a bedroom? It doesn't have a 5-foot opening.
I think through the chair, if I could just, I think the office is part of the second bedroom. The only way to get into the office is to walk through the bedroom. So I believe there's a privacy component to the office. It does not have a separate entrance off a hallway or a common area. So we've opted for that. The original design had a door on it. We took the door off of it. But that's our rationale for that.
What's to prevent them in the future of putting a doorway in that hallway
Well,
and making it a bedroom?
You know, if they did that illegally without a building permit, they could do it, but with a building permit, I would review it and would not allow it. So, again, you have to have a certain amount of faith that people are going to do what's right, but this is, as it is now, it's a suite. It's 1 bedroom. You can't get into that office without walking through the bedroom, so it would not be counted as a bedroom.
and that's pretty cut and dried, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's very, very clear, well-established, I think.
Yeah, there's no, yeah, so that's the pass-through rule. If you have to pass through a room to get to another room,
right.
that's not called a bedroom. So technically, you could say the bedroom is the office and the pass-through room is the bedroom. But I mean, it's a suite, so I guess that's how the rule's written, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That might be something to address later on, the next set. But I'd ask Judy, so they removed 2 of the second 2 variances, and they're left with the variance of 19 feet and 31 feet leaching pit near the wetland.
Yep.
Is that within what we have granted before for variances? Is that something that is standard for us, or there's a precedent for it?
Yes, those are, that's a local Board of Health regulation. They are putting in an IA technology. They're replacing an existing house.
So they got to maximize what they have.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, we're actually getting, I would say, a more environmentally sound situation because of the IA technology, and the closeness to the wetlands is, there's nothing too much you can do about.
So the leaching pit variances they're requesting are sort of, are within the, what we've done in the past?
Yes, yes.
I have a question, and I'm new at this, but I'm looking here at the proposed leaching area and the numbers that you give, and it says where 100 feet is required. Why wouldn't you do the 100 feet? That's required.
There's not enough room on the property to get the 100 feet.
I see, and that's the same thing for the proposed leaching area below it, that we're,
For the reserve area as well, yes.
I see.
So what we did do, again, through the chair, is your Title V and local requirements are 5 feet above estimated high water. We're actually providing almost 6.5 feet above estimated high water, so we're actually giving the effluent more space before it gets to the groundwater, as well as providing the alternative treatment, enhanced treatment.
Okay, now, if you weren't putting in the third bedroom, would this still be the case?
If we were not putting in the third bedroom, we would, the way I understood the code, and Judy will correct me if I'm wrong, is we would not be required to hold the elevation of the leaching facility where we're holding it now.
I see.
So it would be more into the existing grade that you see now out there, and where, with the additional of the bedroom, we are elevating the entire structure.
But you would
Thank
still,
you.
you would still have the setback
We
issue.
would still have the setback issue,
I think that's what Carol was at.
Oh,
You
I'm
still
sorry.
would have the variance.
yes.
If it was a straight upgrade with no changes to the dwelling, you'd still have the,
We would still have these type of variances, yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
More questions, more comments from board members, alternates?
Has this been approved by the Conservation Commission or the Conservation Foundation?
the Conservation Commission, I believe, has approved this, and it is going to the ZBA, I think, this
Later
coming.
in the month.
Yeah, sometime soon, yeah.
All right. Any further questions? If not, can I have a motion to accept, to approve?
This is Noble. I'll put forward a motion to approve the 146 Strong Island Road variance application, the revised form with just the leaching variance
With the conditions.
with the conditions.
Right. We have a second from Ron. Judy, can you read the conditions, please?
Yep. The applicant shall restrict the property to a maximum of 3 bedrooms and record this restriction on the deed at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. The applicant shall submit a copy of the executed deed restriction to the board. The applicant shall sign a covenant with the board agreeing to comply at such time as the town of Chatham, through its Board of Health and/or Board of Water or Sewer Commissioners, directs the connection of this property to the municipal sewer when it becomes available. This covenant and deed restriction shall be recorded at the Barnstable County Register of Deeds and shall be submitted to the Board of Health. Throughout its life, the system shall be under an operation and maintenance agreement. It shall be for at least 1 year and may be with any mass-certified operator of the appropriate grade that has received training by the company on the operation of the system. Effluent from the system shall be monitored twice per year for the first 2 years, preferably May and October. The effluent shall be field tested in accordance with Mass DEP standard conditions for secondary treatment units certified for general use as revised March 20th, 2015. In addition, a lab test of the effluent for total nitrogen to meet the performance standards of 19 milligrams per liter shall be collected and analyzed by a certified lab. Water meter readings are to be provided with the semi-annual report. If any of the field tests or lab tests fail, follow-up tests shall be conducted by a certified lab and an evaluation made by the operator within 30 days. After required 2 years testing, application can be made to the board or its agent for review and possible modifications of the monitoring requirements. The applicant agrees to apply a minimum of 6 inches of compacted topsoil to all disturbed areas of the property. The engineer shall submit an engineered as-built plan, including as-built elevations, with a written certification that the system has been installed in accordance with the approved plan. No alteration to the floor plan of the dwelling or the engineered site plan will be allowed without further review by the board or its agent. And this variance granted pursuant to the State Environmental Code in the Town of Chatham, subsurface sewage regulations, is valid for 1 year from the date of the Board of Health approval. A permit must be issued and work commenced during that 1-year period, or the variance shall expire.
Thank you, Judy. Okay. Anybody from the public wish to comment before the board votes? Okay, let's proceed and call the question. All in favor of the motion made and seconded, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One. Okay, 4 to 1. Motion passes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's been 24 months, but do you still want the green cards?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
All right, let's go to item 4 on the agenda, which is a variance hearing from real estate inspection regulations regarding sewer connection for Jeffrey Martin at 38 The Cornfield, Latanzi, Spalding, and Landreth representing.
Actually, we have David Burney here, who's the contractor representing the, I don't know, the sellers or the buyers, and he can talk to this. Basically, the system failed the inspection, and they're going to connect to sewer, but they need some more time because of how long it takes.
Okay, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is David Burney. I'm representing Jeffrey Martin, who represents the owner for 38 The Cornfield. I'm a Title V inspector, and I did an inspection on this property, and we found it to have a leaking septic tank. I'll bore you for a minute and just give you an idea of what a septic tank, how it's put together. It's put together as 2 pieces, very much like a shoebox. Like one half of it goes on the other part of it. There's a gasket that's put in that seam, and it's a fairly common thing to find seasonal properties that the gaskets dry out and they leak through that seam. This particular tank is not leaking anywhere else. It's not leaking in the bottom. And the way that I know that is because of the level inside the tank. It's right even with that seam. We're asking for a variance so that the property can be used while the engineer is putting together a plan for a sewer hookup. On behalf of the owner, I have engaged Clark Engineering to put together that plan. We have a signed contract. I have a copy here of that contract if anybody would like to see it, and I also have a deposit check made out to Clark, a copy of that check. I'd like to touch just a little bit further on how the leaking seam impacts the property. I don't believe that it does very much. It must have some kind of an impact, but I've been in the septic business for 40 years, and I can tell you a cesspool is doing far more damage than a leaking septic tank. So I don't think there's any real environmental concern, and there is definitely, it's in everybody's interest to pull this off as fast as possible. The delay is simply getting an engineer to design this thing quickly.
Okay, questions?
So at the present time, the level of the liquid in the tank is at or above the seal, and so sewage is leaking out into the property. So my question is it reasonable to periodically pump that tank to keep the level below the level of that seam?
That's one possibility, and yes, that would make sense.
Because otherwise, we are just adding sewage to the property.
Yes, that would absolutely make sense. The other point that I'd like to make is that there are many tanks that are used seasonally that we find this on. That same tank, if it was inspected while the property was occupied, I wouldn't be able to tell that it's leaking in most cases, because it's that minimal, it's that little bit. When it sits idle, people used to think years back it was evaporation. It's not evaporation. It's a rotted seal or part of that seal. So, but to answer your question, yes, the tank could be monitored and it could be serviced on an as-needed basis.
Mr. Burney, am I correct in assuming that the level of effluent in the tank is even with where the leak is occurring, but it's not high enough to actually bring the effluent to the D-box or the field? So, in other words, the seepage pit and the D-box are not working right now because it's being short-circuited with the leak at the seam. Is that true?
That's correct. However, again, if the system is put to use, that system will fill, that tank will fill, the leak will be minimal, the distribution box will work, and the leaching will work.
So as soon as you get more moisture in there, that seal will re-expand and pretty much do its job?
I'd like to say yes, but I don't know. I mean, I don't have that good of a handle on it. What I can tell you is that many of them that are re-examined overnight after a small amount of hydraulic concrete's been put on them or something, they work fine for the longest time. This particular job, one of two things would happen in order to make the repair. We would really demolish the backyard, which is going to get demolished anyway
Right.
when the sewer connection goes in, but it'd be wise to do it all at once, not split it. And the other way of correcting it, unfortunately, is to pump the tank, wash the tank, do a confined space entry, go in the tank and seal it. So rather than go through the expense of that, I just think that the problem is so minimal that that's why we're here for the variance.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, if there's going to be more use until this hookup is completed, could it be pumped now and then with your extension?
Well,
these would be
yeah,
pumped
it absolutely could be, but
to-
if we go back to the design of the property, I believe, I'd have to double check, but I believe it was 3 bedrooms, which it would be a minimum of 110 gallons per bedroom per day. If those 3 bedrooms are occupied, you're going to have 300 gallons approximately per day. In three and a half days, that tank is, well, it's a 1,500 gallons, so it's a little bit more. But within a week, the tank is full. And if you're pumping it out every time it gets half full, you could be there 3 or 4 times a week.
Right, no, I just meant that maybe if it's pumped out before the continued use, and if you want the extension, you're asking for 6 months, so perhaps that would,
No, I don't believe we're asking for 6 months. We're
Excuse
asking
me?
for the time that everybody is in agreement, the buyer, the seller, the realtor, the attorneys, everybody is in agreement that as soon as the plan is available, it will be submitted to the town for a connection. And it's my job as a project manager to see that that gets done.
oh, good, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, is this a seasonal house or year-round house?
Up to this point, it was seasonal.
And when will it begin to be year-round? So we're,
That I don't know, sir.
Um,
It-
so
other words-
we've, as part of a variance request, we've asked for a pumping schedule, Judy, I mean, commonly. So, because you'd have to pump it every 3 days to ideally correct it, doesn't mean we shouldn't put them on a pumping schedule that's reasonable, that cost reasonable or whatever.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, how long do you think you're going to get this done in 3 months or?
Well, I have a proposal signed with Clark Engineering on February 11th, and they said to me, it's in here somewhere, they said that it will take them at least 8 weeks. So from February 11th, add 8 weeks.
Yeah, April.
So the two questions, we have no way of knowing how bad this leak is. We presume it may be mild, but we don't know. It could be a big leak. We also, I would presume that in most houses in Chatham, the 3 bedrooms, all 3 bedrooms aren't occupied all the time and pumping and flushing the toilets regularly. So, you know, it would seem, I mean, unless you wanted to go and fill the tank up, you know, put 2,000 gallons of water in the tank and see how long it takes for it to flow out, then you'd know how bad the leak is. The other option would be to just come up with some reason, like pump it once a month to minimize the.
That's, I was going to say, you know, maybe pump it once a month or after the first month and even see if it needed it. Yeah, we don't know what the usage is going to be. We don't know how long this has been like this. It could have been like this for 10 years for all we know. There is signs that the pit has had effluent in it, so it has been working at times. So it may be, like David said, it sat and dried out and then leaked slowly over time.
I don't think it's asking too much to have monthly pumping, just as a precaution.
Yeah, and like I said, they may open it up and see that it doesn't even need to be pumped, but at least somebody, David definitely has the ability to determine that, so.
Yeah,
That's
I agree.
reasonable.
Did you pump it during the inspection?
No.
Okay. And then how long before, according to Mr. Clark, how long until when this property is actually hooked up to sewer? About
Well, there's 2
8
issues.
weeks is
8 weeks for his plan to be done, but
for his plan to be done.
when you speak to the contracting community, every one
Okay.
of them, I don't install anymore, I did it for many, many years, but, and sewer work, but when you talk to the local contractors,
Got weights there.
they're way out too, so.
So we
I-
don't know, actually.
We don't know, but I think that it's very reasonable for me to check it monthly, and if it needs pumping,
Yeah.
I'll have it pumped, and I can provide that information to Judy.
I like that. Board members okay with that? A commitment to check it, inspect it monthly, and if it needs to be pumped, it's pumped, and you provide some kind of pumping
Sure.
records to Judy evidencing that it's been done until such time that it's connected to the sanitary line.
What would be the definition of it needs to be pumped? You know, if the water level is at the level of the seam, if it's not going to be full if it's
Right.
leaking. So, you know, if there's,
We want it to be below the seam
should
level,
be below the seam.
right? I would think that way then you don't have untreated effluent escaping the tank.
I had a question. In the letter here, in the packet, it said the completion would be done by July 6th. What are they referring to there? It's on the Latanzi, Spalding, and Landreth paper.
Oh, yes, it's on the letter, the March 1 letter.
I think that they're, I don't know, I guess they're just saying that the seller, the seller is saying that they're giving, we're agreeing to give them till July 6th, which I couldn't tell them that exactly until the Board of Health voted on it, so.
Does that refer to just having the plan completed?
No, having the system
Complete the work.
complete the work.
Yeah, it says,
Spalding and Lambeth is going to do the work? They're going to dig the trench?
You're,
That's illegal for
I'm sorry, this company isn't going to build the trench and do the work.
no, this is the lawyers.
And then there's a follow-up letter dated March 8th that's asked for a completion date of October 1st, 2022.
for 6 months.
That's all between them. What the board decides is what they're going to go by.
I see. Okay,
So-
thank you.
So how long of an extension are they asking for?
They weren't really, I said 6 months, because that's kind of usually what we give people, because that seems reasonable to get the work done, and hopefully this will be done before 6 months. As David indicated, they are in a rush to get this done. Usually they put money in escrow for the work to be done, so that the seller has to get it.
And we have no idea when the new buyers are going to be coming and moving into their house.
I don't know.
Nor how many there will be, or whether they'll be here weekends or full-time. We don't,
That's something I could easily find out and get that information to Judy.
because that'll drive to some degree the amount of effluent that's going into the tank.
Everybody that's involved in this wants to see it done as quickly as possible, including myself.
Okay.
So, and I have spoken to a couple of licensed contractors in town
Okay.
about doing this. So one of them is kind of on a standby, and he has said he'd move as quickly as possible.
Okay.
So I would expect that to be the case.
All right, so what do we need? We need a motion granting an extension of 6 months and a requirement that the representative from the buyer inspect the tank monthly and pump as needed to keep the effluent below the seam level. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Can I get a motion from somebody to that effect, and then?
And I would just add, it'd be pumped now, and then go on the monthly schedule.
I'll have it pumped within the next few days. I'll make that arrangement.
In a 6-month extension, we don't know how long, but that's a reasonable start.
I would say come back, you know.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we clear? Diane?
We have one comment, there's someone's hand up.
Okay, is somebody from the public like to comment? We don't hear anyone.
Is it David, is your hand up, David Clark?
Yeah, thank you. I just, if David Burney doesn't mind me speaking, I just don't see the need for pumping. I don't see the public health issue with a leaking septic tank. As David said, even if there's 2 people in the house, they're going to be pumping that tank twice a week. And I think having a pumping truck on the property twice a week is a larger public nuisance than a leak in the septic tank. The property is probably 20 feet above groundwater, so there really are no issues if the septic tank's leaking. It's just a technicality or technical failure of the septic system. And if they were going to keep a Title V system on the property, then yeah, it makes sense to replace the tank. But pumping this system twice a week is going to be...
David, our motion does not require pumping twice. It requires pumping at least once, an inspection of the tank once monthly, and a pumping, if necessary, to keep the effluent level below the seam.
Well, as David Burney said, the seam's at 750 gallons. So 2 people in the house are going to use much more than 750 gallons a week.
But they don't have
So-
to. They don't have to, David.
Right, but again...
And in
it
fact,
comes
in
down-
most studies that I've seen, say that the actual gallons per day per bedroom or per person is far lower than the calculations.
Right.
So
But
they
what-
have it within the realm of their control to minimize water use. And
I'm
that's,
sure they do, I'm sure they do, yeah, but there's no public health issue because the septic tank is leaking.
only that it's not going through the,
It's not going through the stone of the leach field and into the same
right.
subsurface environment. So the treatment that's provided by the leach field is minimal compared to the effluent that squeezes through the gasket of the tank and into the surrounding soil.
May I say something? Okay. I don't think we were really saying, what we were saying on a monthly basis, if it's needed, we were saying we're going to inspect it, and if it's needed, it will be pumped. Is that not correct? Okay. So if it's inspected and it doesn't need to be pumped, it won't be pumped, right? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, David made his point.
Bob Duncanson's hand is up. Bob
Dr.
Duncanson?
Duncanson? Dr. Bob?
Yeah, hi, thank you. Good afternoon, members of the board. I have to agree with David. The minimal environmental impact that this leak could have is really something that frankly doesn't require the expense of pumping. As you've rightly indicated, the only thing that's different here is the liquid is exiting the tank at the joint and then entering the soil, as opposed to going out through the D box where there's no treatment and then going out into the leach field where there obviously is some treatment as it goes through the stone layer and into the underlying soil, where you build up kind of a bio layer where some treatment takes place. But if this tank has been leaking on a regular basis for some period of time, more than likely that same bio layer has been built up right where the leak is.
That's a good point.
So there's really no difference environmentally or from a nitrogen perspective whether this liquid portion is getting out of the tank at the gap in the gasket, or if it's getting into the ground out through the leach field. So, I mean, I understand where the board's coming from in terms of desiring to do something, but given the fact that this leak is minimal, pumping the tank on even a monthly basis really doesn't make sense because, part of the effectiveness of a septic tank is building up that biome to break down the waste in the septic tank, and every time you pump it, you disturb that. And so I would suggest that there's really no need for pumping here, given the fact that, they will be connected to sewer before the end of the year, because the sewer line is there, it's ready to go. It's just a question of getting the engineering done and then the installation, and as indicated, both of those are being fast-tracked.
Board members?
So I guess we need some education about septic tanks. So the quality of the liquid at the halfway up point in the septic tank is no different than the quality of the liquid at the very top that's going out into the leaching field. That the bacteria and the other things that are in the waste that are at the very bottom of the tank are just at the very bottom, and when you're halfway up, then it's basically as pure as what's going over into the leaching field. Is that correct?
It would, I mean, the middle layer, the effluent that would be leaking out at the seams is a clearer, liquid. Clearer, and it's not clean. We do get more treatment once it goes into the leaching field. I think Bob makes an interesting point, which I hadn't thought of, that there probably is a biomat built up around the seams where they're leaking, which would do some additional treatment. We don't know how badly this is leaking. So I'm fine either way.
I'm conflicted.
I'd like to add
really-
a comment.
Sure.
A septic tank, again, most resembles a shoebox. And when the tank fills up, it comes up to the outlet pipe. That, as the treatment takes place, any material comes in, it goes down in the lighter solids, lighter stuff comes to the top. The heavier stuff goes to the bottom. So you've got a layer of sludge on the bottom, you've got relatively gray water in the middle, and you've got scum on the top. And the septic tank doesn't know any different whether the tank is full or half full. So that if it gets up above that line, it's almost a good thing because whatever is escaping is that gray liquid in the middle that would be the same liquid that goes to the leaching field. The sludge is not going to go out there, and the scum is not going to go out there. Maybe for a second, as it fills above that, much as it does after you pump a tank and it refills, some of the scum, as it's rising, exits the T, goes to the D box, and winds up in the field. So I don't think it can hurt anything. And as David said earlier, and I know this to be true, groundwater is at least 20 feet away, and in all my experience with failed leaching fields, they were inches. It was inches of a biomat of plugging. It wasn't feet. It wasn't several feet. So everything gets stopped within a few inches of the stone. And to everybody else's point, it's getting stopped as it walks out, as it leaks out the side of that tank. So I just don't, again, see an environmental issue, but whatever needs to be done to satisfy it, I'm willing to proceed.
Excuse me.
Mrs. Noble, yeah, I'm a little conflicted as well. I guess my first question is, why do we have a rule that says that this septic tank is leaking and needs to be fixed if it's not, doesn't create a problem? I don't understand.
Well, I'll give you an
Second is,
example.
How
If-
onerous is it to ask somebody to pump monthly in a situation where we could say that the house, we could say the system doesn't work to the point that you can't inhabit the house, I guess.
I'm not sure how to answer your second part as to how often.
throwing it out as
But the
part
first
of the
part,
discussion.
I can absolutely answer. If we were talking about this septic tank down the bottom of Vineyard Ave in high groundwater, absolutely, it would be a concern. 20 feet above groundwater, I don't see the concern.
Do you have any idea when it was last pumped?
It's in the report that I submitted.
Okay.
It had been pumped out once, I think in 2017 or 18.
Thank you. Okay.
So, this is David Clark. Keep in mind that there's an estate involved in selling this house. The owner died last August, so the house has been unoccupied at least since last August, and I believe it was just one person living there. So just in the time frame that has been unoccupied, I can see the tank going down if there is even just the slightest leak. I know when Title V, the newest Title V came in 1996, and David probably has a lot more stories about this than myself, but the number of septic tanks that failed inspection was rampant because Shorey Manufacturing, back in the 90s, made these tanks and put them in the yard, and to prevent them from filling up with water, they put a little weep hole in the bottom of them. They were chasing that manufacturing defect for years. Anyways, that's all I gotta say.
This leak is absolutely not as a result of the weep hole, because that water is standing right at the seam. That liquid is standing right at the seam.
All right, well, other Board of Health members have opinions, or they want to?
One more question how did you discover the leaking?
During the inspection,
I mean, you dug around the edge of the,
no, I opened the outlet of the septic tank, and I looked in the tank, and I could see the liquid level up at the seam. That tank, under the best conditions, the right conditions, it should be 100% full up to the outlet line.
Right.
It wasn't, it was up to the seam. It's a very common issue. We see a lot of it.
Okay. Well, I'm conflicted on this too, but I suspect at the end of the day, we ought to take the advice of Dr. Duncanson, who's got more experience and more knowledge about these things, I think, than any of us do. So what's the pleasure of the board? board feels strongly the other way, then we could still consider a requirement.
Can I just add something? How difficult is it to inspect the tank? If it's fine?
Yeah, is your mic on? Is your button on?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. How difficult is it to inspect the tank? Is that a big
Well,
process, or?
No, the tank currently, the access cover currently is down, I believe, 24 inches.
Okay.
So if we were going to do a routine inspection, we would raise the cover to grade so that, and put a plastic, heavy-duty plastic cover on it,
Okay.
screwed down so that nobody can open it without the right tools. And it would be a matter of undoing those 4 screws and checking the tank periodically.
Okay, so if it's inspected and it's fine, then there's no need for the pumping. But if it's inspected and all of a sudden it's been used a lot or whatever, and it needs pumped, then it would be pumped. But pump wouldn't even come into question if it's inspected and it's fine. Is that correct?
If the property is occupied,
Yes,
I expect that tank is going to fill up quickly
okay.
and stay full. I don't believe it's going to leak to the degree, there'll be less leaking going out because there's more material coming in. So if this is going out, just for an example, it is a quart a day or a gallon a day, and you're putting in 30 gallons a day, you're not going to know it's leaking. So,
Okay, thank you.
I think we have to agree with, go along with Dr. Duncanson, because that's what his job is, to advise the board
Right.
on what to do.
So, is it the pleasure,
I would just, Ed made the motion, so, I mean, does Ed want to withdraw the motion or keep it there, or I think it would be up to him,
Change the motion.
or change the
I would
motion?
stay with the motion.
Stay with the motion.
Yeah. Yep.
which requires the monthly pumping and all that?
Yep.
Okay. Do we have a second for Ed's? Did we get that far, that we ever got a second for that or not?
Yeah, Noble seconded.
Noble seconded it. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second.
Yeah, in deference to what Bob said, for this particular case, I'll withdraw my second. Can I do that?
Can we vote, or do we have to vote on a motion that's been seconded? I'm not sure, well, that's a good, where's that Parliament, huh? Yes, okay, we have a motion, it was seconded. Let's vote on this and see where the vote takes us, and then go back again if it doesn't pass. So, we have a motion, it's been seconded, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
How many vote no? No. Okay, so the motion fails. Now we have an opportunity to put forth a new motion. Can somebody do that?
So this would be a motion to approve as written.
6 months.
I can't make a motion.
Oh, that's right, Rick, they can't make the motion. Uh-oh.
Yeah, this is Noble. Okay, I will make, in deference to Bob, I will make a motion that we approve the 6-month extension. Do I need to add anything else?
I don't think so. Okay, we have a revised motion can I get a second? With up to 6 months. Any comments from the public? All right, let's vote on this second motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right,
Thank you.
think we have it done. All right. Let's go to the issue that's going to be the most fun of all, which is item 5, which is a discussion review of a definition of a bedroom. We have we had an initial memo from Judy, and then that was a
Day because I pulled all the surrounding towns. I pulled all the towns on Cape Cod, so they kept coming in over the last few days, so I added to it. But my memo hasn't changed, with just some general ideas that I had on what we could do to tighten up our definition of a bedroom. Privacy elimination, I said 5 feet or greater. We talked tonight about possibly that being 6 feet for new construction, or 4 feet or greater, so maybe 5 feet for renovations or existing structures. And then adding no doors, glass doors, French doors would be allowed on those cased openings. And then some other thoughts I had, rooms consisting of 3 walls. Sometimes I'll go into these rooms that that are in attics, and they have sloped ceilings. So a half wall not exceeding 42 inches shall not be considered a bedroom. So if it only has 3 walls and a half wall that doesn't have the ceiling height, we wouldn't count that as a bedroom. Rooms over freestanding garages that have heat and a bathroom that provide privacy are considered bedrooms. I guess,
except if there's a stairway, right, down to
right.
a garage.
Right, with direct access to the house, right. If the direct access to the room is through the garage, then it wouldn't be considered.
Okay, you clarified that with the final sentence then, okay.
But then sometimes we have rooms over garages that have access from inside the house. That's an attached garage. So that would be like those bonus rooms that people build. Those we would consider a bedroom if they have the requisite privacy. Sun porches, sunrooms, those are pretty easy to look at and determine that they're not a bedroom. Some towns, and this is in Title V, but we have not used it, is where the total number of rooms exceeds 8.
Without specifics, before we get.
Okay.
Where the rooms are more than 8, you add up all the rooms and divide by 2. That's something that we have not done in the past. Lofts or bonus rooms with rooms open to below or open stairways are not usually considered bedrooms. And then there was the question of, do we want to limit full baths in bonus rooms? Or just limit them to a powder room or no baths? So those were just some kind of quick thoughts that I had for you guys to think about and we could talk about. And also, we would need to come up with a strict definition, and then we need to change both sets of our regulations, our nitrogen loading regulation and our subsurface sewage regulations, which both have definitions of bedrooms in
So
them.
we would do that concurrently together.
Right. I would change them, and we would advertise it and take public comment and vote on it once we came
So
up
that,
with.
how long is that process?
However long it takes us, really.
Okay,
I think, do we have to advertise?
a few weeks?
Yeah, we have to advertise,
Okay.
so.
I know that Noble wanted to make some preliminary
Yeah,
comments
just
before we got into
a general,
this.
before getting into all the specifics. I would just say that, I was surprised that a number of Cape Cod towns have actually firmed up these rules about what is a bedroom. So we are clearly in a good place here in trying to do it ourselves. Looking at the other towns, the way they were written, a lot of them weren't that well written to me. I was confused. Some of them said things that were odd or didn't say things. So I took away from that we need to be careful how we actually write it, what we address and what we don't address. Because when we do it, it's going to be there, it'll be permanent, and it'll be there for a while. So we need to be careful, and I think it's going to be a process. It's not something that we can hammer out today. I think there's a lot of information. I got a lot of information just in the last day. So it'll be something that we work on over some meetings. So I would just say that, just as preliminary before getting into all the specifics.
Richard?
Can you tell me, the paragraph here that says Title V bedroom definition, where did that come from? The one that says count the number of rooms and divide by 2?
That's Title V.
So
That
that's a
comes right-
state,
That's the state Title V definition
V.
of a bedroom. Yeah,
but we don't use that.
we don't.
So you're not required, to have a Title V system, you're not required to follow the Title V.
We can make local regulations that are stricter, which
Yeah.
is what we have done.
Well, we're not stricter than that, counting the rooms and dividing by 2. With many of these houses,
Well, it depends
Of
on what,
12.
I guess it depends.
depends how you define a room. Like on one of these plans we saw today, there's a gigantic room with a kitchen at one end and a living room at the other end and a dining room in the middle. It's all one big room. That's 3 rooms.
That would be arguable, I think.
Well, I know, that's what you'd have to then have a definition of what a room is. But that would make one of these houses we just called a 4-bedroom house, a 6-bedroom house.
But we would only
if
call it
we
a
followed
4-bedroom,
that
so that would be
definition.
stricter. You know what I'm saying? If by Title V you could call it a 6-bedroom, but we would only call it a 4-bedroom, that would be stricter.
What's stricter? Making a 4 instead of a 6 is strict?
It's more restrictive.
More restrictive, yes.
I mean, in terms of the septic system, having more bedrooms is more restrictive. You'd have to have a bigger septic system. I mean, to say that some of
Reduce
the-
occupancy load by having a limit of 4 bedrooms
We would
versus
be,
6.
right, we would be limiting it to 4 bedrooms.
I think it
I-
depends which way you come at it. If someone's trying to sell a house, they're trying to create a lot of extra bedrooms, and a lot of these rules were to clarify that. We look at it with the septic systems as rooms that can be called, can potentially be called a bedroom that aren't being called a bedroom. So it's kind of coming at it from 2 different ways. But I'd say, in terms of what Judy said, the Title V bedroom definition, that's there, that's in the state law. We don't ignore that. We just can go beyond it with our own regulations, but we don't ignore what the state has said. We can add to
Right.
it.
But if the state says, for the purpose of the septic system, you count the number of rooms and divide by 2 and come up with a number of 6, and we say by our rules it's 4, then we're not following the rules.
I think we have to.
We're not more strict, we're less
I think
strict.
we have to follow that rule, and then.
Yeah, and we're
define
not,
what a room is.
because there are many of these houses
Well,
that have lots of rooms. If there's 10 rooms in the house, you divide by 2, and it's 5 bedrooms. And there's many of these,
Round down.
well, only if you're not an even number.
Like 9,
If it comes to
divided by
4 and a
2,
half, then it's
it'd be
4.
4 and a half
But if it
means
comes to 5, it's 5. So a 10-room house has 5 bedrooms, according to Title V. And in many cases, we say, no, it's 3 or it's 4,
Yeah, I looked back through some of the old plans to see if that rule came into effect, but what I saw was in the new homes, like you said, there's a great room, kitchen, dining room, living room, which used to be 3 rooms, is now 1 room, a great room. So I think one big open room would be 1 room.
What, you'd have to,
Even though they have
again, you'd have to have a
3 areas.
definition of what a room is.
Okay, that might be something we have to do, but I think.
Right.
This gets to be a sticky wicket, doesn't it?
We,
But I don't think we can change what the state says about that. We changed what we consider a definition of a room is, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know what the state says is the definition of a room. If you have a big fireplace and
It says not including
and a
bathrooms,
living area at
halls.
one end of the room and a stove at the other end, is that one room?
What is the definition of more stringent versus less stringent? If the number of rooms divided by 2 gives you 5, and we have a code in place that limits it to 4, is that considered more restrictive?
No, that's less restrictive.
I think
because
it's
you're
more
allowing-
I think it's more restrictive.
Well,
Because
that means then that they don't need as big a septic tank. That we're not restricting them, they can use a small septic tank in that house.
But the maximum occupancy is
Well, we're not
defined
talking
as
about
the number
occupancy.
of bedrooms times 2.
But we're talking about Title V septic
That's
regulations,
the
not
design.
occupancy.
But that's the design of the septic system is based upon an occupancy
up to 2 people per bedroom. That drives the size of the septic tank and the size of the seepage field.
Right. So if we only allow them to have 4 bedrooms, they don't have to have as big a septic system as if,
And they should have
but if
less
the house
effluent.
actually has 5 bedrooms, then we're allowing them to have a 5th bedroom without an adequate septic system for it. If by this Title V definition, the house has 6 bedrooms,
Right.
and by our definition, it has 4,
Then there's less effluent going into the
well,
environment.
not if they have
because
people living in those 6 bedrooms.
But realistically, the way these houses are used, I mean, some of these bonus rooms and such are counted, are used as bedrooms after the fact, but most people don't use their great rooms and living rooms as
I don't know
a-
if that's true. In a lot of these new houses that are being built near the beach and everything, they're designed to pack a lot of people into these houses. We have a house on Sam Ryder Road that advertises sleeps 16. It's got 3 bedrooms.
That's a whole nother kettle
Yeah,
of fish.
well,
How you try control occupancy during
Right.
a summer rental season, you'd have to somehow link the number of actual bedrooms to the
Right,
rental
there's a
agreements.
whole nother code, the housing code, which gives you occupancy and how many people can sleep in a room based on square footage, and so that's, and so you're talking like a rental code, you know, which is
Well, I think
different
the
than.
only way to really be sure that anything we say is done would be to hire another person in the health department and have a once-a-year inspection of houses to see how many rooms have beds in them. You know, because.
Well, this is a very different issue. It's related, but it's a
Right.
different issue than what we're faced with right now, which is to help sharpen our definition of how do we, as a board, evenly and consistently define what gets counted as a bedroom versus what's not counted as a bedroom. And that drives then the design of the septic system for that house, how it's sized.
Right.
This is too complicated. I agree. My head is
I mean,
spinning.
I think if you went to what Dick is saying and counted them that way, some of these larger houses would have to be scaled back. I mean, I can see both sides of this argument. It is so complicated.
How many families have 12 members? You know, I mean, it's,
Well, they don't, but they have 20 people coming on the 4th of July, for the
Right.
month of July to visit on Cape Cod. That's what we have here. If we were in Worcester, we wouldn't be having this problem. But, you drive up and down Chatham, you see small houses with 6 cars parked on the grass.
Ms. Noble, okay, I'd say that the great room issue, where you have kitchen, dining room, living room, whether that's 1 room or 3 rooms, I think that's something we'll have to think about. I think generally it's probably been considered as 1 room nowadays, but it's a new issue. But maybe just to move on a bit, I had a question. You said something specifically about old construction. Why would we talk about old construction if we're in this situation? They're all grandfathered. If it's an old construction, it's already been determined how many bedrooms they have. We don't change that, right?
Sometimes what happens is we have an old house that's getting renovated, or they're getting a new septic system, and I have to decide how many bedrooms are there.
And so you go through the
So-
old house.
Right, so, they might say this attic space is a bedroom, but it only has, 6-foot ceilings, so I wouldn't count it as a bedroom. But they might want to count it as a bedroom because for real estate property values, they want to count it as a bedroom. So it just depends on what people want. Some people want more bedrooms, some people don't, depending on what they're trying to do, basically. So that's why I think it's important to clarify what we call, what is actually a bedroom. And sometimes I have a new, like today, you have a room over a garage, we need to figure out whether that's a bedroom or not. In an old house, if I went in and I might count it as a bedroom if it already existed and they were getting a new septic system. But, we might not allow them to build that now.
But this generally comes down to what's the definition of privacy. And if you say a
That's a big
bedroom
part of
has
it.
to have privacy, then we can set that as a cased opening less than 6 feet would define privacy. We could
Less than
we
6
could
feet or
take,
more than 6 feet at least?
it's private if it's less than 6 feet.
Oh, okay.
If the cased opening is 6 feet or greater, or there is no cased opening, if it's open, then it's not private, then that's not a bedroom. We could say that. We could say if it's more than 8 rooms, we could put the Title V language in there, and our room count would be the lesser of whatever that says, or what our standard, our local standards say. But for most of these issues, it comes down to privacy. What's the definition of privacy? And so if it's an open room with a railing looking down into the living room, it's not private.
Right.
So all these bonus rooms and things that are up at the top of the stairs where you can look right into the living room, that's not private, that's not a bedroom. So if we just had a definition of what the size of the cased opening needs to be, and then we say if there's more than 8 rooms, we'll do the room count, because that's what Title V says we should do. And then take whatever is the strictest, meaning the fewest number of bedrooms, and to assign the size of the septic system.
And do we want to limit full bathrooms in these game rooms, bonus rooms, whatever you call them, to limit it to like a half bath instead of a full bath, since it's not a bedroom?
Right.
Yeah. People
You
will
get
say
into-
they have exercise equipment and they want to shower after
It's
they
a wink,
do
wink,
their
and a nod, nod.
Peloton thing, as long as they don't die on the machine, So people will always say they want to have a shower next to their exercise equipment.
I think it should be pretty clear to me that the average homeowner, given a choice of having fewer or more bedrooms, will probably want more, true? For advantages on resale and
Yes.
for advantages for summer rental, right? These are incentives to say, oh, I want to count my house as 8 bedrooms, not 4, if there was a way they could do that.
But they'd have
Unless
to
they're
have
putting in
a
a
septic
septic
system
system.
big enough
But I
to
don't-
accommodate that, and their lot may not be big enough, or they may,
Right.
I mean, people are using these IE systems to try to add an extra bedroom, but they can't add 3 extra bedrooms by putting an IE system.
But then the counter argument that Noble just referenced would be, well, but it's cheaper to build a septic system for 4 bedrooms than for 8 bedrooms. But the additional cost, Judy, is not that great, is it, between,
Not usually too much, no.
I mean, you're
I mean,
still,
it's still, the difference between a 3-bedroom and a 4-bedroom is kind of minimal. You have the same size septic tank, you just have to add maybe one more leach chamber,
it's incremental. It's not
Yeah.
hugely different. It is
So
incremental.
lot size isn't an issue on these.
Lot size is very much an issue.
Well, that's the problem.
Not
If you
for
don't have a
repair-
big enough lot, you can't put 8 bedrooms.
Right.
But if you call it 4, you can.
Yes.
We
Right.
just approved a 4-bedroom house on a 25,000 square foot lot.
Because it already had 3 bedrooms on it. So we've always allowed people to keep what they have, pre-existing situations. And we allow an extra bedroom if they put an IA septic
The
system
plus
in.
one for
Because
wherever you were
we're
coming from.
What we're doing is it's a win-win situation. We're giving that extra bedroom in return for getting nitrogen reduction below what we would have with a conventional septic system. So he could have gone and rebuilt that as a 3-bedroom house without even coming to the Board of Health, except for the setback to the wetland, and not put an IA septic in. But that would have given more nitrogen into the groundwater than the 4-bedroom with the IA system. So that's why that happens.
It's an environmental gain, environmental
So-
protection gain.
So it's a change.
If
We're
it's a
giving him something in.
A 3-bedroom house, I don't care what size the lot is. Right now, it's a 3-bedroom house. You put in an IA system, you get an extra bedroom. Whether it's 15,000 square foot lot, 20,000, 25, 30, whatever.
Yeah, because you're putting the IA system in and you're removing the nitrogen.
You're enhancing the quality of the effluent going to the environment.
So we're giving, the policy of the Board of Health, and it's actually in our regs, has always been that we'll give you the extra bedroom if you put the IA system in.
And that is our rule, that's our local
That's in the
rule.
nitrogen loading
It
regulation.
was a long precedent, that's what we've been doing for a long time.
Yeah.
So it gets grandfathered and they can add a bedroom. But I'd say what Dick said, so what we're confronted with is people that are coming and they want to put in a 3 or 4-bedroom septic, and we get a house plan with a whole bunch of extra rooms, the sewing room, the this and that. And we need strict criteria for when we would look at these extra rooms and say, oh, no, that's not just a den or a study, this is actually a bedroom. It has to be changed. That's our perspective on it. So I think that the size of the arch, 5 feet or 6 feet, we had said 4 or 5 before is what we've been doing, but I think 5 foot or 6 foot obviously creates the least privacy. And the other thing that I don't understand, was another topic here, is the garage rules. that's kind of like a giant loophole to me. I'll have to think about that some more.
Well, so there's detached garage. Is that what you're talking about? Something, or just garages in general?
Yeah, a detached garage with a bedroom over it and a bathroom. Whether we call it a bedroom is whether the staircase comes down into the garage or comes down the side of the house and exits.
Part of,
that come from?
Where does that come from? And then we had a room that was attached to the back of a garage, and there was a door that came in from the house, and then there was another door from that room that went into the garage, and we said, oh, it enters the garage, so therefore it's not a bedroom. But obviously, it can be used as a bedroom. I think in general, in the day of, Airbnb, not to be unfair, we have to probably be on the stricter side defining these things because they're being abused all the time.
Yeah, the garage thing with the bedrooms and the sleeping rooms is based on a building code.
But we don't have to, we can set that where we want that.
We can be more restrictive, sure. We can say, well, we're gonna count it as a bedroom whether the building department does or not. They don't count anything as a bedroom if it's not labeled a bedroom. They don't call it a bedroom. So that's just the way their building code is written. But I have always been told by all the building commissioners I've ever worked with that if a room enters directly into a garage, it's not approved for sleeping purposes. It's not.
By
the building code.
By the building code.
Right.
Does that tie in with the cars running in a garage and
Right.
having vapors?
Fire and vapors, and I can get more information on that from them, but that's
if you
just
put a-
always been my
An
understanding.
attached bedroom in the back of the garage, and you can enter from the house, and then you put a door in the garage and you lock it, it's not a bedroom by the code. That's where we are.
I don't think that's right, you know.
What, you mean?
You know, I mean, I think that a bedroom, a room that you access from the garage is not a bedroom only if that's the only access to the room, is through the garage. If you can access the room otherwise,
Well, if you have to
Then-
pass through that room to get to the rest of the house, then,
no, but if you have a garage and you have a room in the back of the garage that has a door from the house into the room, and then there's another door from that room into the garage, you know, in my view, that's still a bedroom.
But we recently had a plan that had such a room, and I think we said it wasn't a bedroom.
right,
My recollection is,
because you had to walk through that room to get
because
to
of
the
the
rest of the
garage rule,
house.
which I just think we
Well,
might
that's
not.
different, that's another matter, walking through it to get to the rest of the house. But I'm just saying, you know, you can have a house, and you can have a garage, and, you know, and then you can have a room on the back here that you can get into from the house or into from the garage. You know, that doesn't mean this can't be used as a bedroom, in my view. You can
is our-
certainly rent it as a bedroom.
What is our objective here? What is our objective?
Our objective is to try to define how many rooms in a given residence may be used as, the owners may use as a bedroom,
For what reason?
for the purpose of assigning a big enough septic system
Okay,
for all the rooms that are going to be used as a bedroom.
okay.
And what we find is lots of people are building houses and they're calling things sewing rooms and libraries and dens that can certainly be used as a bedroom. And in my own case, again, I have a man cave in my basement with stairs that come down from upstairs. There's a door at the top of the stairs. The stairs come down, they go into the man cave. It's a great big room.
You get hairy when you go in there?
There's a exercise equipment in there. There's a door that goes outside. There's a great big TV and a couch and things, and there's a bathroom. And the building inspector told me it's a bedroom.
Right.
I said, well, you know, what do you mean it's a bedroom? There's no door on the room. Well, at the top of the steps, there's a door. And so it does provide privacy. And even, you know, and it's a 40 by 20 foot
Full bathroom.
with an 80-inch TV set, and there's a full bathroom.
Does it have
Full
a,
bathroom.
does it have
and so it's a
ano-
bedroom.
does it have another way out of it besides the staircase back into the house?
There's a walk out into the backyard.
Oh.
That could be rented to Airbnb,
Yeah.
couldn't it?
It has a slider, yeah.
So, you know, so they said, no, we have a 5-bedroom house. And I said, well, you know,
Well, that's-
okay, so it's a gigantic room that is called a bedroom by the building inspector.
But I mean, I agree with Ron, it is complicated, and there's a whole bunch of things, but the goal is to come up with some simple rules, which we probably can't do today, but maybe one thing is to have Judy just roll out another sort of suggested set of rules as a second preliminary draft or whatever, to have us review and discuss some more.
Yeah,
not gonna be easy to
I
come
think
up
I
with a
could,
final
I
thing, but we have
could
to
kind
do
of take what I've put here and, you know, we don't want to completely ignore Title V and the building code either. I mean, rooms still have to meet the building code in order to be considered habitable spaces, and
But we
So
can
what
exceed
we-
the building code.
What we really want to do
Which we
is
do all the time.
control the phenomenon of having new homes on septics where there's many more bedrooms than the number declared,
Potential bedrooms.
potential bedrooms. So these are sneaky bedrooms that are getting under the false representation of being a sewing room, a library, a whatever,
A lot of them have bathrooms.
Right.
Full bathrooms.
which are evidence, okay, but,
You're not on.
make sure you're,
which have full bathrooms, which betray the true intent,
Right.
right?
But I don't think we want to have bathrooms as part of the definition of a bedroom, because
No,
you know,
but
that isn't there now, and I don't think there's any reason to do that, to put bathrooms in.
I don't think you have to have a bathroom, but I'm saying a lot of these rooms that are not labeled bathrooms
A bedroom,
have
right.
full
Bedrooms.
bathrooms.
Which is kind of the walk like a duck, talk like
Right.
like a duck, is probably.
Is it too onerous to put in a rule that you limit baths to a half bath in an auxiliary room? Is that too onerous? I guess that would be a
Right.
question for us.
I think people would argue it is, again, because of this business about
Bathrooms and closets have never been counted.
exercise rooms and one in the shower after you exercise.
Dr. Duncanson, do you have the magic answer?
The other issue, though, that we need is, oh, sorry.
No.
The other issue is 5 or 6 foot arch, I think.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, no, it's just been very interesting listening to your conversation. What we will do is we will take the existing regulations and we will do up a red line with proposed changes, with a number of the things that I heard you guys talking about today. And I think to me, probably the biggest one of interest is the whole idea of cased openings. And so we will put something for you for your next meeting for your consideration. We'll take all the information that Judy's put together and pick out the parts that we think are most important and put those into the red line for you. So because it's a lot easier, I think, if you guys have something definitive to look at, as opposed to just, well, here's what the other towns have done kind of thing. That is definitely helpful for this kind of discussion, but when we get to actually looking at proposed changes to the regulations, I think having something black and white, or in this case, red and black in front of you, will make it a lot easier.
Can you put the Title V room count into this?
If the board thinks that that's the direction you want to go in, certainly we will put that in for your consideration.
I think that can be helpful at times.
I agree with what Dick, I think it ought to at least be factored in some way clearly. Either we're not, we're not going to embrace it for XYZ reason, or we're going to embrace it in some context as a lesser number or a higher number, whatever it might be. But fold it in somehow.
And I would just, Noble, I would just add, I don't know the answer, but the garage bedroom situation.
That's got to be.
If there's something that can be more specific that you can think of, some language, or
So that
would be helpful for us to look at it.
We want to pin that one down.
Yeah, I can discuss that with the building commissioner as well and see what their thoughts are on that.
And what about bathrooms?
I think that's another wild card. I think that, do we want to consider for the first time limiting the size of bathrooms adjacent to rooms that are classified as non-bedrooms?
Right.
I mean, and we know all of this. Ultimately, if a homeowner brings in a carpenter, they can revise the layout of their house in ways that would functionally give them more bathrooms, not legally, functionally. And there'd be no way for us to know this, if they didn't pull permits.
A few years ago, and Judy and Ed will remember, but we had a real problem with the bonus rooms up over the garage. We had one contractor that came in, and we knew, and in fact, we went out and inspected a couple of them, I remember. As soon as we...
Get closer to the mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
As soon as we would go out there, we would find out what they had done, had made it into a bedroom.
Right.
And, and they didn't have the space, they'd have a 3-bedroom house, and they'd have 4 bedrooms there. The house that I live in is zoned for a 4-bedroom, and I have a bonus room that I could use as a bedroom if I wanted to.
Right.
We don't, we have enough other bedrooms. But that was a real problem. Do you remember that, Judy?
It was a problem, and we do find these occasionally. They do come up, but the problem is we can't be the thought police. It's
Right.
We can only approve what's put down on paper, and as long as we're clear and the permits are clear, it comes back to haunt them. But I know, it's difficult.
Let me ask a question. Maybe I should know the answer to this. But if a house is on sewer and the seller sells that house to somebody who wants to build a bigger house and it's on sewer, what restricts the size and the number of bedrooms in that house?
The sewer regulations specifically say that they have to meet the requirements of the Board of Health that are in effect, so they would only be allowed one extra bedroom.
Okay. An existing house
So
on
they-
a sewer?
Right.
Okay.
So when they come to us for their, for a sewer connection, sometimes they do request an extra bedroom at that time. And I would review the file and make sure they hadn't already been granted that extra bedroom. Or if they were on an IA and already had the extra bedroom, then they would not be approved for another bedroom,
Okay.
So when you hook up the sewer, you get one extra bedroom,
if you request it.
if you request it. And then what about new construction that's immediately hooked up to sewer?
They have to meet
Bedroom
the
number.
one bedroom per 10,000 square feet of lot
It's the
area.
size of the parcel that
Plus
limits
one,
them.
plus one,
Plus
Still
one.
one bedroom per
10,000?
10,000, even hooked up to sewer.
right.
Okay, that's good.
Just to be clear on the sewer connections, you do not automatically get an additional bedroom when you hook up to sewer. You can only, under the sewer regulations, and this is what we dealt with at the beginning of the sewer project for Friends of Chatham Waterways and others that were concerned about overdevelopment with the sewers coming in. You can only have the number of bedrooms on sewer that you could have if you were on a septic system. So the only way you can get an additional bedroom when you go on sewer is if, as Judy said, you could also get an additional bedroom on a septic. So if we look at it from the perspective of if, let's say somebody comes in with that has a 3-bedroom house and they want to connect to sewer to give them 4 bedrooms. We would look at it at the staff level and say, okay, they haven't already been approved to get a 4th bedroom because, as Judy said, they put in IA systems or something like that. And then we would look at it and say, well, there's a reasonable chance that they would be able to get a 4th bedroom by the Board of Health granting them a variance. And so that's the only way they could get that additional bedroom. If we look at it and say, there's really not a good chance that the Board of Health would grant that variance, they're not going to get it automatically. So there is a process that has to be gone through when you connect the sewer if you want an additional bedroom above and beyond what you already have. So just to be clear, it's not just because you connect to sewer, you automatically get an additional bedroom.
So I would ask Bob, so if you have a house that has already gone to IA technology with an extra bedroom, and then you hook up to sewer, you wouldn't get another bedroom beyond that?
Right, you would not get another
Right.
bedroom because you've already gotten that bedroom
Okay.
by the IA technology. That's correct.
If you had a small house on a big lot, so say you had a 2-bedroom house on half an acre of land, and they put the sewer in, you can only have a 3-bedroom house on that half acre, even though a new house might have 6 bedrooms on that half acre.
No, keep in mind, you still have the Board of Health nitrogen loading regulation. You only get 1 bedroom per 10,000 square feet. So if you had half an acre, that's roughly 20,000 square feet. You could have a 2-bedroom house, and theoretically, you could get a 3rd bedroom if you put in IA technology. So when you connected to sewer, the most you could have would be a 3-bedroom house. Now,
You can
that
only have-
doesn't, yet again, that does not address, and this is an issue we've been dealing with for 20-plus years here, and that is the size of the house. Because you guys only regulate the number of bedrooms under state statute and under local Board of Health regulations. You only regulate the number of bedrooms. So that's the problem. We see all these houses coming in with music rooms and gyms and TV rooms that don't meet the definition of a bedroom. So you could have a 15-room house that's only 3 bedrooms. That's a zoning issue, how big the house may be. That's not a Board of Health issue. And we've been wrestling with that for the last couple of decades in Chatham, as we see these bigger and bigger houses that may only theoretically, or not theoretically, but on the, according to the rules and regulations, may only be a 3-bedroom house. And what I think you're wrestling with is how to ensure that those bonus rooms do not become bedrooms over time. Now, one way to do that is through the cased opening. A minimum 6-foot cased opening is required for a room not to be counted as a bedroom.
Pause it, or you go ahead and leave.
But let's not be naive. We all know that, 6 months from now or a year from now, somebody can come in and put bifold doors into that cased opening and close it off and give it requisite privacy that it would now need to meet a bedroom. But the only way we would ever know that is if, an inspection were done on the property for some other reason. Other than that, we would never know per se that, that room has now been converted into a bedroom by leaving the 6-foot cased opening is still there, but it's been closed off with a door. So it's difficult because of, the authority that we have under state law and federal law and local, what ability we have to go into someone's private residence. It's very difficult.
This is Noble. I just say Bob's example of the 10-room house with 3 bedrooms, that would get caught with this calculation rule where you divide the presumed bedrooms, you divide 10 by 2, it's 5. It would be presumed to have 5 even though it has 3. So that's an example of how it would get caught. So John has stepped out, but I would just, so the suggestion by Bob was he'd go ahead, Bob and Judy would make up a new set of proposed regulations that we'd have in front of us so we can review it again and have it as an agenda item at our next meeting. So I'd ask the board if there are other comments, do they want to move on to the next agenda item? Or should we continue to discuss this?
I think we should move on.
Okay, let's move on, and then it would be Bob again. Update on John McGrath. Yep.
The update that I have for you is I'm waiting for the signed contract to come back from Childs. Once we have that, we will issue a notice to proceed, and then they will go ahead and get it on their schedule. We've indicated they have to give us a certain amount of notice so that we can send a letter to Mr. McGrath, but that's, everything's in the work. It's just a question of how soon we get the signed contract back and then turn it around. So that's the latest. I was out there today. I went out there late morning, and believe it or not, he's now got what I would call a decrepit old motorhome parked along the side of the road. So, yeah, it just continues. So that's the latest update on McGrath.
This Noble, any estimate of how long it would be to get the contract back from Childs? Is there a hang-up, or is it just a matter of days type thing, or a week?
I'm hoping that it's not even that long. I mean, it was sent to them by email, so I'm hoping they're just going to turn it around and send it back. So hopefully days.
And then the traffic committee putting up the no parking signs, and the guardrail goes, they approved it, and goes where next to the?
It goes to the select board next.
Select board.
Yep.
Gets on an agenda item there, okay.
Yeah, it is not on their agenda for tomorrow. I know they've been dealing with all the budget items, but hopefully they close the warrant tomorrow, and then that'll free up some agenda space, if you will. So, but I haven't seen a future agenda for next week yet.
Okay.
So,
Good.
excuse me, so by the next meeting for the Board of Health, we should have a date that the cleanup will begin?
I can't say that with any certainty, but I mean, that's what everybody's working towards.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Bob, Childs is a local company, correct?
Yeah, they're out of South Dennis.
Okay, oh, South Dennis, okay.
Have we done work with them, the town of Chatham, in the past? Okay.
Yes. They're a fairly large contractor on the Cape. Yeah, we've done multiple projects with them over the years.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Dr. Duncanson on this? All right, let's move the agenda to item 7, which is the Chatham water quality. Any updates on that, Dr. Duncanson?
No, nothing new to report. The planning just continues to move along for wells 5 and 8 for the interim or the temporary PFAS treatment. And in wells 10 and 11, the 2 new wells, the plans are moving along on that as well. So everything just continues to move along, but I don't have any major updates for you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Item 8, COVID-19 updates.
All right, let me share my screen here real quick because visuals are always best. So here is the most recent weekly COVID-19 cases. You can see the very substantial drop-off from the post-holiday Omicron surge. We had, in the week from March 5th through the 11th, we had no reported cases. And in the last weekly updated, the 12th to the 18th, we had 2 cases reported. So hopefully that's not, a trend. But cases are down significantly from where they were in the December-January timeframe, and hopefully that's just going to continue here. Our percent positivity, which dropped substantially after the peak, it's still dropping. The slope is not as steep as it was. It's leveling off a little bit, but it's still going down. So again, positive news. And the same thing with the average daily incident rate. That is somewhat flatlined at an extremely low level after having, been up as high as it was during the Omicron peak. So that's kind of it for the data. Things continue to go positively. We're not seeing things like we were. I'm sure everybody knows there is a new variant out there that is making its way through Europe currently, and currently accounts for about 23% of the cases in the US. It's anywhere from 30 to 80% more contagious than Omicron was. But again, it doesn't appear to cause illness or severe illness. So it's very mild like Omicron was. And some of the experts, including Dr. Fauci, are indicating we're not expecting to see the same kind of surge with this new variant that we did with Omicron. So, but only time will tell. It's currently on track to become the dominant variant in the US, but hopefully we don't see the kind of surge that we did with Omicron. So with that, we still have, and just so everybody's aware for the public, we do still have the COVID-19 home antigen test kits available in the health department, Mondays through Thursdays from 9 to 3. And Judy has reached out to the local restaurants, and we are providing a fair number of those to local restaurants for their use. We have also reached out through the chamber to the other businesses in Chatham. We didn't get as good a response through the general businesses. We did get pretty good response from the restaurants though. And so we're making those test kits available to the restaurants in Chatham. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Bob, this is John. Do you think that there's going to be another booster approved for senior citizens?
As I'm sure everybody's heard, Pfizer has requested permission to provide boosters to those 65 and older. We're still waiting for FDA and CDC approval of that. As well as Moderna has requested permission for a booster for anyone 18 and older, basically a 4th booster. They have not officially submitted that yet, that request. So yeah, at this point, we're still in a holding pattern as to whether or not the idea of a fourth booster is going to be proposed or not. Nothing definitive yet. As soon as we get that word officially from the feds and the state, we will get that out to everybody.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Is the booster actually approved now for people with immunodeficiency disorders? The fourth booster?
Yes, an additional booster has been approved for those that are severely immunocompromised. And there's a whole slew of definitions of, exactly what that means and who would qualify.
And my understanding is that one of the provisos that they're worried about approving the fourth booster is the possibility of myocarditis. Do you know how common that actually is in older individuals? I know it was a problem in in adolescence.
Yeah, the data that I've seen indicates it's not very prevalent, but it is somewhat of a concern, and especially in the older demographic, obviously. But it's hard to tell. There hasn't been a lot of data yet on a fourth dose and what it may lead to, but it's a concern, and that I think is one of the reasons why the requests for a fourth dose are being scrutinized very carefully to see whether or not it's needed and what the appropriate time frame for giving it would be.
Okay, good. Any more questions, board members? No? Okay, thank you, Dr. Duncanson.
Okay, thank you.
We have minutes for March 7th we need to consider tonight before we adjourn. Do we have any edits or comments or questions about the draft minutes we got from March 7th? If not, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from March 7th?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Carol.
Second, Noble?
Second for Noble. Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes as provided for March 7th, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Before we adjourn, is there any issue anybody would like to raise at the end of the meeting here? If not, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Ron, have a second. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes to adjourn.
I think that's all.
Okay,